Hi, my name is Abby Forcier, and I'm making a little video today just to talk about editing and revising in children's writing. And so one of the things that I think a lot of parents and teachers struggle with is getting a child to go back and reflect and edit their own writing. So I have come up with a couple strategies that I think might be helpful. So one of the things that I always like to share with parents and teachers is that not every piece needs to be edited and revised. So although practicing revision is really important and practicing editing is really important, sometimes a child will write a piece that they don't particularly like and they don't want to move forward with. And so what's really important is to really pick those key pieces that they've written that they really, really love. And so that makes the editing process a lot easier. So they can move forward correcting and fixing those pieces. So that's something to bear in mind. Another thing is that you can sort of prepare yourself for the editing process ahead of time. So one of the things that I always like to have students do is to double space their writing. So whether you're typing it or whether they are, writing it by hand, double spacing is really important because it relieves the stress of trying to squeeze everything in when you're editing. So what I have students do if they are using a writer's journal is to put a little dot next to each line that they're going to be writing on so that they don't get confused and they can space appropriately. So I really like to go for what is similar to a John Collins style of editing, in which the child is encouraged to look at one thing only at a time. And I really like this because it really helps the child to focus on just one piece, one type of error, instead of trying to look at an entire paper and look for everything all at once, which can become very overwhelming. So what I do is I break it into 3 separate steps, which would be misspelled words is the first one, punctuation is the second one, and capitalization is the third. So what the process really involves is the child reading the paper aloud 3 separate times, and each time they're only looking for one thing. And I really like this because you're encouraging the child to look for their own mistakes, and it really should be age-appropriate editing. It's not supposed to be perfect. So I really like it because it empowers the student to correct their own work and change their own writing instead of somebody else saying to them, this is what you did wrong. So what I like to do is to have the errors color-coded. So for each type of error, there should be a color. This is really nice because it gives the visual of the errors, and it's not just a page marked up with red. It also helps students who have challenges such as dyslexia with that visual and color piece. So here is an example of what it might look like. So the first read-through is for spelling. So this is a piece of writing, it's a paragraph, where a child may have just gone through and looked for what they believe are misspelled words. And if you notice, they're not actually correcting the misspelled words at that time. They're just putting an underline under the word that they believe is misspelled. And they've chosen, or my example, I've chosen the color yellow. So this is the first read-through. The second read-through would then be punctuation. And so here you see in pink, there are some punctuation marks that have been inserted. And you can see the combination of the spelling and the punctuation. And the color difference really helps because it allows the child to see what kind of error they're looking at. And I strategically placed punctuation fixing before capitalization because if they're going to insert a period or some sort of punctuation mark, obviously then they would have to go and capitalize. So the third read-through is for capitalization. And so you can see if you look closely that there is some capitalization here that needed to be fixed. Right here where the punctuation was inserted, here's another capitalization. And so it really becomes clear what errors they're looking at. And I really like this model of editing because the child's reading through their writing aloud 3 separate times. And so then when they go to revise, they are already having some ideas about some of the things that they want to change as far as the content of their writing goes and the ideas in their writing. So it really sets them up for a much easier time to start the revision process after they've edited. So those are just some of the things that you can do to help your child to become better at editing and revising and alleviate some of the stress of having to go back and correct their own work. So I hope that helps.